So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking about things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing The Bear Season 4. So, let's get into it, shall we? The Bear Season 4, in case you haven't guessed already, is, of course, a follow-on from The Bear Seasons 1 through to 3. And I am a huge fan of The Bear. I love this show overall. Yes, I even loved Season 3, which a lot of people disliked, and I still don't get. There were some absolutely phenomenal episodes in Season 3. Sure, Season 3 is probably the weakest of all the seasons of The Bear overall, but I still thought it was a bang of a season. You know, last season, Season 3 of The Bear, had this episode focusing all around Tina, which I thought was phenomenal, and that was Ayo Debris. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Is it Ayo Debris? Something like that. Apologies for mispronouncing her name. She directed that episode, and I think that was her directorial debut, and I think she did a really fantastic job. And the last episode of Season 3 I thought a lot about over the past year since Season 3 ended, since I finished Season 3 about a year ago now. And because of my love of this show, I was very excited about Season 4, but it kind of creeped up on me. You know, we've had all these films and TV shows come out over the past month. Well, over the past couple of months, should I say. And the thing is, out of nowhere, it kind of felt like The Bear came. That Season 4 of The Bear was here. And I was like, oh wow, oh yeah, it's already out. Okay, yeah, I'm going to watch it as soon as I can. And that's exactly what I did. And because I was such a fan of Seasons 1 through to 3, I was very, very excited about watching this new season. And after finishing this new season yesterday, you know what? Surprise, surprise, I absolutely loved it. I love this season of The Bear. I think, yet again, it is phenomenal. It wasn't the season I thought it was going to be, but the season it ended up being, I really latched onto, and the season took a direction I did not think it would. But what the season really does well is focus on the character relationships. You know, it's that whole thing that silence, when it's done well, can speak volumes. And this show does that so well. It also leans to that whole thing, you know, that whole old adage in film and TV, show, don't tell. And The Bear leans into that brilliantly as well. There are so many character moments between two characters that might have a history, or that are meeting for the first time, or are just talking, that just, you know, it's the bits between the dialogue which really convey so much. The performances in this season of The Bear are absolutely brilliant. They are all Emmy worthy. I will say, I was watching Jeremy Allen White, who is essentially the lead in The Bear. He plays Carmen, aka Carney. He's got a nickname, Carney. I was watching him in this season of The Bear, and I was like, is he just gonna jump into folks like us, or maybe we were born to run? If you don't know what I'm talking about, he's playing Bruce Springsteen in a biopic which is coming out later this year. So there was a couple of moments when I was watching him in the season thinking, yeah, I can see you as Bruce Springsteen. And I saw Bruce Springsteen live not too long ago, not to brag there, but I did see him live not too long ago, so I'm quite looking forward to the biopic, and I'm quite looking forward to seeing him play Bruce Springsteen. But that's another topic for another day. Going back with what I was saying, the performances are all brilliant. There's not one bad performance in the bunch. And you have a lot of guest stars in this season. Again, a lot of returning guest stars and some new guest stars. I won't spoil who, in case people haven't seen the season yet, but there are some new guest stars in this season too. And the thing that The Bear has always done so well with its guest stars is they just seamlessly fit into the show. You never feel like you're watching a certain guest star in this show. You never feel like you're watching, oh, it's that actor from that thing, because you have quite a lot of prolific actors in this show as a whole, but you never really feel like you're watching actors play characters. And sometimes you get that with guest stars. I mean, some TV shows, some comedies lean into the whole guest star thing, but this show doesn't do that. It what it does is make the guest stars feel like real people in the world of the bear, and that adds to the verisimilitude of the show. If you don't know what I can't speak apparently. If you don't know what that word means, look it up. It adds to the verisimilitude of the show, and it also adds to your engagement, because you don't get disengaged or unengaged when a guest star comes on screen. You might go, "Oh, that's such and such a body," but they also just fit seamlessly into this show. And I think that's the same with all the actors. All the main actors, should I say, who have now blown up in popularity and in fame since the first 2 seasons of the show. You know, like Jeremy Allen White has already said he's going to play Bruce Springsteen in a couple of months' time. Ayo Edebiri, again, apologies for mispronouncing her name, she's been in loads of stuff, and Ebba Moss-Backrack has just joined the MCU as The Thing, or will join the MCU in about a month's time as The Thing. The point I am making is you have these actors now blown up in popularity in this show who are still main parts of this show, but you never really feel like you're watching actors play these characters. And I think that's something The Bear does so well and does effortlessly, because there's so many TV shows where you watch it and like, yeah, it feels like an actor playing a character, but you never really get that with The Bear. And I think that also adds to the realism of this show. When I'm watching the show, I feel like I'm watching real people try to make this now fine dining restaurant work, and I think that comes across brilliant. It also makes us great, and I mean great with a capital G, TV. Plus, the soundtrack to this series is killer. The soundtrack is so good because it does the Scorsese thing. And what I mean here is, you know, if you look at the best Martin Scorsese films, like, say, I don't know, Goodfellas or Casino, or even something like The Wolf of Wall Street, which I don't think is one of his best films, but it's still a very good film nonetheless. He uses a lot of songs in those movies. He uses a lot of needle drops of famous songs. But what Scorsese does so well is he makes the songs feel like they were made for the film. And this show does that as well. All the needle drops, all the songs that are used in this season of The Bear, that are used in The Bear as a whole, but in particular this season, because that's the season I'm reviewing in this podcast today, you know, all of these songs that are used in the soundtrack for this season of The Bear feel like they were made for this show, and they're not. I mean, there's R.E.M. in there, and there's plenty of other artists that I'm probably just, that I haven't realised actually sung on the soundtrack for this show. But at the same time, the show feels like, you know, the soundtrack for the show feels like it was made for the show when it wasn't, but that still proves to be very effective. Furthermore, I think that the directing to this season of The Bear is, I mean, it's really something special. Christopher Storer did a really great job directing this season of The Bear, as he has done with all the previous seasons of The Bear. Now, he doesn't direct every episode, I should say that. He doesn't direct every episode of any seasons of The Bear, but he directs most of the episodes. And I think you can really tell when he directs an episode. Not to say the other directors, the other filmmakers involved in the show do a bad job, not at all, but there's something about Christopher Storer's directing with this show where he leans into the characters, like he really focuses on these character moments, and he will, you know, linger on a close-up of a character as they show their emotion. And that's another thing about this show, and that's another thing about this season of The Bear. Whenever a character is showing emotion, the emotion feels real, it feels raw, and you don't always get that with the show. It doesn't feel like actors acting, it doesn't feel like actors crying. No, all the emotion in this show feels like genuine emotion, and you don't get that from most other TV shows. And going back to what I was saying, the directing is so on point, particularly for this season, and it's really showing the range of Christopher Storer as a director, because Christopher Storer, when you look at the previous season of The Bear, he's really good at creating that high-octane, chaotic energy, and in this season you don't really get that as much. It's not there, it still is there in the first couple of episodes, which is a better way of saying that, but this season is also more relaxing and more calm, and lets us really focus on these characters and their, you know, their reconciliations, their reconnecting with other characters that are in their lives. And Christopher Storer, what he does so well is capture that emotion. There's no like quick edits that are trying to keep you engaged. There's so many moments where you're sat there with the characters, letting the moment speak for itself in the series, and I think a lot of that is down to is down to the directing. And I think a lot of that is also down to the writing. The writing with this season of The Bear is... I mean, it's emotionally effective in all the ways you want it to be. And the thing is, Season 3 of The Bear, I understand why a lot of people... Well, I don't really understand, to be honest. But I kind of get why a lot of people, or why some people... I don't know if it was a lot of people, but why some people didn't like Season 3. Because there was a lot of setup in that season. There was some payoff in some storylines, but there was a lot of setup for Season 4, because it sounds like Season 3 and Season 4 of The Bear were shot back to back. And what you get with Season 4 is a hell of a lot of payoff, and the payoff feels earned. And I do think for people who perhaps didn't love Season 3, or didn't even just like Season 3, you will be satisfied by Season 4 because of how it pays off everything that was set up in Season 3, and how it makes everything feel earned. The emotional moments in the season feel earned and are emotionally effective because of what's come before. And I do think that if you're a fan of this show, if you're a fan of the first 3 seasons of The Bear, or you were just a fan of the first 2 seasons and you didn't really like Season 3, I still think you will find this season of The Bear emotionally satisfying in all the ways you want it to. And I just sat there and I loved this season of The Bear. I absolutely loved watching it. And this tells you how much I loved watching it. I watched it within the space of 24 hours. I don't usually do that with a TV show. Usually I would space a TV show out. But I thought to myself, you know what? All the episodes of The Bear are on Disney+. Let's get through them all in one day. Let's see if this season of The Bear is bingeable, which I don't really like using that word, but I use it quite a lot on this channel. Let's see if you can watch all the episodes. Let's see if you can binge this season of The Bear. And that's what I did, because, you know, as much as I do really like Season 3, I'm not sure if I could binge all of Season 3 of The Bear. But the thing is, I can, and I did binge all of Season 4 of The Bear, because it was so good TV. I was just eating it up. You know, no pun intended, or pun if you want to put it in nonetheless, but no pun intended that I was just eating it up from moment to moment to moment, from scene to scene to scene, from episode to episode to episode, and each episode impressed me in its own way. Each episode caught me off guard emotionally, and the writing in each episode kind of creeped up on me, something which you didn't think would be important. Like, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I think it's like episode 4. Bear in mind, again, I watched it all in the space of 24 hours, so I don't actually know if it was episode 4. I might have got the episodes mixed up in my head a little, but I think it's episode 4 of the season of The Bear, which is centered around Sid, Ayo Edebiri's character, and she's talking to this relative of hers about this quote-unquote sleepover, and I was like, okay, how is this going to be important? And then the way it plays out, I thought was important for the story going forward, and worked really well in the overall narrative of this season. And there's an episode, I want to say it's episode 7 of this season of The Bear, which takes place in this wedding, and I can see why some people wouldn't like that episode. Personally, I loved it, and I loved it as it was the complete opposite. It was the antithesis, which is a word I should really use more because it's a great word. It was the antithesis of that episode in season 2 of The Bear, Seven Fishes, when you get that flashback to Karen's family at Christmas. It was kind of, it wasn't kind of, it was pretty much the antithesis to that episode of season 2 of The Bear, and I loved that. I loved how it was done. I loved how The Bear was kind of mirroring itself in its later episodes, in its later seasons. And yeah, I watched this show in the space of 24 hours, and I did so for a reason. I didn't watch in the space of 24 hours because I hated it, because I disliked it. If I disliked it, I can tell you now, I would have not watched it in the space of 24 hours. I would have spaced it out, and this review would be coming out next Sunday instead. But I sat there on my Friday last week, and I just watched the entirety of season 4 of The Bear. And it's not a short season. I mean, there's some episodes which are about half an hour long, but the other episodes, which are about 40 minutes long, and there's one episode in particular which is an hour and 10 minutes. It was not a short viewing experience, but it was an engrossing one nevertheless. And I loved this season of The Bear. I hope it's not the end. There was some rumours out there that the show is going to end with season 4. I hope that isn't the case. They haven't marketed the season of The Bear as the final season of The Bear, but there have been some rumours and some speculation that it is the final season because the main actors, particularly the main 3 actors in the show, have blown up in popularity and are going to go on and do some amazing things, which, I'm really happy for them. But personally, I want to see another season of The Bear. I think the show could easily do another season, and I think if it did do another season, it would be the 5th season, and I think the 5th season would be it'd be a great way to end it. I think there was a lot of room for more good storytelling, and I think there are some loose threads, again, without going into spoilers, there are some loose threads at the end of the season. Well, threads is a bit of a light word. There are some storylines at the end of the season which still aren't finished. That's all I will say. So, I personally hope that season 5 happens. And I hope that it comes out next year. I love that The Bear is coming out. I love that we get a season of The Bear every year. At least it feels like we do. I think, the last season of The Bear was last year. And I think the season before that was the year before. So, I love that we're getting a season of The Bear every year. When you look at other big TV shows that cost a hell of a lot of money to make it, it's like we have to wait 2 years between each season of that show. Whilst with The Bear, it's out every year, and so you don't really forget about what's just come, especially when it's being great. And this season of The Bear is another phenomenal season, in my opinion. It's not my favourite season of The Bear. I don't think it's quite as good as season 2. Although, on a rewatch, and I'm definitely going to rewatch this season again, probably within the next couple of weeks, on a rewatch, I might prefer it over season 1. And I loved season 1. Season 1 of The Bear got me into this show. But this was a different kind of season. It was a different kind of a dish that I didn't expect it to be. And yet it was still proved, at least to me, to be a flavoursome season full of lots of surprises. And it was also a palate cleanser season as well. It was just, this season, at the end of the day, is really about reconciliations, reconnecting, and how you have your work family and your biological family, and how those two mix. And how maybe it's not the best idea to have those two mix, although sometimes it is a good idea to have. It is a good thing to have those two mix. And I really loved how this season of The Bear made those themes shine through. Yes, I loved this season of The Bear. Loved it. And that is why I'm going to say that season 4 of The Bear, you know what? I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It isn't without its flaws here and there. And if I wanted to, I could probably nitpick this season. And sure, it's a little inconsistent in its filmmaking from here to there. But I can get past all that because of how great TV it is. Not many TV shows like this. This show, in the way it's shot, in the way it's put together, in the way it's edited, in the way it's written, in the character development, in the acting, and just in the show itself, just in the ingredients of the show, it's not your typical show, and I love that about it. It's so different, at least to me, than any other TV show I see on TV nowadays, and I love how it stands out. I love the way it is shot so much, because I'm watching the show, and the thing which keeps astounding me isn't just the writing, and it isn't just the performances, which are astounding in themselves, but also the directing and just the way it's shot. I'm like, wow! I'm so taken by this in ways that I just don't expect, and I just love how unique it is. I love how it's his own thing, and it doesn't feel like it's copying off anything else. I know there's been some people who say, oh, it copied off Boiling Point, the British film, and there are some similarities between both, but Boiling Point is a different kind of thing. Again, there's similarities, but I've seen the Boiling Point film. I know it's a Boiling Point TV show. I watched that, but I saw the Boiling Point film, and I thought it was good, but I think The Bear is far better. I think The Bear is miles better because it of how it develops the characters and how you get emotionally attached to these characters, and how by the end of season 4 you are just, at least I was just completely taken by the direction that the story went. The last episode of season 4, again, not getting into any spoilers, but the last episode of season 4 was not an episode I expected. But the more I think about it, the more I like it. Heck, the more I love it. And I think that's kind of how I feel about The Bear overall. Or at least this season, The Bear, should I say. That's how I feel about The Bear season 4 overall. The more I think about it, the more I think that this is an absolutely brilliant, and I mean brilliant, season of The Bear. It's another brilliant season. Not the season I expected it to be, and not the season it kind of started off as, but the season it ended up as, I thought, was emotionally satisfying and top quality TV. And so, all in all, as what he said, and as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, season 4 of The Bear is a 9 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen season 4 of The Bear, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. And look forward to many more podcasts and many more videos coming very, very soon on this channel. As what he said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.